Welcome to Learning React with me. In the last few videos, we started learning how to use React Router. And in that process, we learned different components offered by React Router DOM that would help us organizing the different parts in our React applications. And one such component was switch, and we learned why switch is important and how it can be used with the keyword exact to better organize our routes. So while we were talking about switch, I have shown you a path which has :id, and I said we would be exploring this in our future videos. And now is the time to learn about how to pass parameters through the route from one component to another component. So today I am going to show this with an example where we display the list of users in the home screen, and when you click on each of the user you would navigate to the user component where we would display the ID coming from the route parameter. So first let's remove this home:id because I am going to create a new route which says user/:id. This need not be ID, it can be any name you want, for example user ID maybe. And I have created a component called user, which for now is just displaying this text user ID is, and I am also console logging the properties. So let's save this route and let's go to home component. Here we are going to display the list of users. So let me just quickly grab the list of users which I have already created and paste it here. Let's create links for each of these users. So I already have the code where I am looping through each of these items in the users array, and each item is updated to a link basically map is used to modify every element in this loop to a different element, like it is transforming every item here. So I have created a link to each of the user names, and once we click on this username it would navigate to the path user/user ID which we have added here. So user ID is going to be substituted with this ID of every user. If it is user 1, it would be user/1. If it is user 2, it would be user/2. So let me import this link here, save it, and now let's move to the browser. So this is how our home page is going to look like. I have added some CSS. So you are seeing the usernames as expected, and once I click on user/1 it shows user ID is, which is expected because we didn't add anything dynamic here. What I'm trying to bring here is I want to see the ID which I passed here through the route parameter. So let's see how we can do that. And if you remember, I have added a console log to see what the properties are going to look like. And if you didn't go through my props videos, please go through the playlist. You'll find a video on props. So this is the object we logged in. In the props, by default, React would provide few objects like history, location, match. So in this match, you can see there is an object called params which would contain all the parameters which we listed in the path. So for now we have only one parameter here, which is user ID. So I'm seeing user ID here, and this is the value that I passed. If I pass 2 here, you would see user ID as 2. So yeah, so user ID is 2. Now we just have to make use of this property to display the user ID when we click on a user. Now here I'm just going to say this dot props dot match dot params dot id. Let's see if it is working. Okay, something went wrong. this dot props dot, okay, this is user ID. I gave it this ID, so now it should show me 2. Let me go back to home. If I click on user 1, it's 1. If I click on user 2, it's 2. If I click on user 3, it's 3. So this is the traditional way of accessing the params, but after the invention of React hooks, there is another way using which you can access the parameters, which is useParams hook. So let me just import useParams hook provided by React Router DOM, but as we already know, useParams would work only with the functional components because hooks are not going to work in the class-based component. So let's try to convert this user component to a functional component. And again, if you missed what is a functional component, please feel free to go through my playlist and check for the functional components. So I'm just going to remove the render function, which is not needed in the functional component. And as we know, we don't have access to this keyword in the functional component. So let me just remove this as well. So this is going to work. We are just going to see, okay, this is the previous error. Let me just clear it. So this is working as expected. Only thing is we are going to make use of a hook, which is a more better way. So let me just declare a constant here, which is params, and use the useParams hook. Now let me just console log this useParams to see what it is going to give us. So it just gives us the parameters. In our case, user ID is the parameter with the value 3. Now we are going to make use of this user ID. But instead of using params, I would like to use object destructuring, where I would directly get my user ID. Now I am going to remove this and I'll just say user ID here. Okay, now let's see what it is going to say. So let me go to home page. When I click on user 1, user ID is 1. I'll click on 2, it's 2. I'll click on 3, it's 3. So this is working. So these are the two ways by which you can access the parameters sent via route from one component to another component. If you are making use of a class component, use the options provided by this props. And if you are familiar with the hooks and more comfortable working on the functional component, you can always use useParams with much less code. So this is all about route parameters, and I hope you understood the concept. If you like the content, please like, share and comment, and don't forget to subscribe to InterviewPro. Thank you.